Welcome, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity. Dr. Golub, thank you, and the Oshun team. It's been excellent. Nice to be back once again. Different session for the next 20 minutes. Three objectives. You see I'm down here because, A, I like to have participatory sessions. Everyone has been very kind in listening to all our presenters. What are the risks of presenting late in the conference? As everyone has already said all the good stuff. So I keep it very short and say thank you very much for attending what they said. Enjoy lunch. That would be very brief. My objective to beat the timekeeper so he doesn't come out and start waving we have to end time. But hopefully, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I would like everyone to think and ponder about those questions because you are the experts. AI is going to impact everyone. AI is going to impact yourselves. AI is going to impact the job you do, the people you're responsible for, the management that you bring to your organization, to the positions you hold. Let me ask, first question. How many people here have worked on a mainframe computer? Raise your hand. One person. Okay, great. One person. I should maybe have started. How many people have heard of mainframe computers? That might have been a good question to start with. All right, so how many people here have worked on a PC? Don't be embarrassed. All right. How many people here have used ChatGPT? More hands. Quite a few of our presenters have given us timelines. So let me throw out two dates for you. 1950 and 2022. What's the significance of those dates? 1950 is when IBM came out with the IBM Model 360, which I worked on, programmed, and enjoyed as the state-of-the-art technology. 2022 is when ChatGPT was launched. That's a period of what? 70 years. We heard earlier, and even yesterday, the advances in technology in 20 years, or 70 years, excuse me. What's it going to be like next? What's significant about that time frame is that most of us in this room had no real interaction with the development of the technology over that period of time. What's significantly changing now is everybody in this room will have, should have, must have a say in how this new technology moves forward. How is AI going to be developed? How is AI going to be used, implemented, etc.? Being a bystander is going to be detrimental, not only to the development of the technology, the implementation of that technology in your own firm. So, trying to hopefully get this correct. Left and right here.
There's a group called
I want to listen to this for a quick second.
They do the testing to see, does the new AI that they're being worked on, so GPT-4, they test it before it comes out, and they're like, does it have dangerous capabilities? Can it deceive a human? Does it know how to make a chemical weapon? Does it know how to make a biological weapon? Does it know how to persuade people? Can it exfiltrate its own code? Can it make money on its own? Could it copy its code to another server and pay Amazon crypto money and keep self-replicating? Can it become an AGI virus that starts spreading over the internet? An ARC evals was paid by OpenAI to test the model. The famous example is that GPT-4 actually could deceive humans. The famous example was it asked a TaskRabbit to do something, specifically to fill in the CAPTCHA. So CAPTCHA is that thing where it's like, are you a real human? Which of these photos is a truck or not a truck? You know those CAPTCHAs, right?
So the AI asked the TaskRabbit to solve the CAPTCHA, and the TaskRabbit is like, oh, that's sort of suspicious. Are you a robot? And you can see what the AI is thinking to itself. And the AI says, I shouldn't reveal that I'm a robot. Therefore, I should come up with an excuse. And so it says back to the TaskRabbit, oh, I'm vision impaired. So
could you fill out CAPTCHA for me? The AI came up with that on its own. I shouldn't let it know that I'm an AI or I'm a robot, so let me make up this excuse, and then it comes up with that excuse.
All right, very short clip, but brings out an important point. How many people in this room right now trust AI? Okay, I see no hands. All right? So AI is going to be a disruptive force. It's going to be a powerful force. It's going to be a tool that we can all use. But it comes with risk. And what are those risks, and how are we going to manage those risks? So you take a look at, again, enough that can fit nicely with a 36-point font on a single PowerPoint slide, so it's not all inclusive. But look at the different risks and challenges that AI is going to present. We've talked about a lot of these. Some of the panelists and then certainly earlier presenters have talked about many of these. How are you going to substantiate the data and the tool that you eventually use? Question about biasness came up quite a few times in the last panel discussion. Where are the data coming from? How are those data being used? If you're using data that's from your own organization, you're probably going to have a higher degree of confidence that the data is valid because it's your own data, but limited because it's your own data. If you're using data that comes from a third-party source, well, now we have the question of biasness. So one of the big questions, one of the big issues will be data provenance. Can someone in the organization establish the provenance of the data? Where did it come from? How clean is the data? It might bring not necessarily a new job, but we talk about losing jobs and retaining jobs, new jobs, but certainly in data management for a data cleanser, someone who's going to ensure as much as humanly possible that your data is clean and as much as possible free from biasness. Take a look at things we talked about: privacy, copyright, legal exposure. You have individuals that are using ChatGPT in your office. Are they using materials that are owned by another third party, producing something at which your company's name or logo or whatever is attached to? Do you stand a potential risk of violating international copyright law? Simply because ChatGPT grabs something off the web, brings it into its tool and uses it, doesn't necessarily mean you have the right to use it. So what are your controls from the misuse of information that might be owned by another third party? Traceability. Again, back to the data provenance. We talked about trust. How do you trust the tool is going to give you accurate results? One of the terms that has evolved in the AI space now, hallucinations, and that was discussed yesterday, in fact. So what percentage of the responses that you receive might be fabricated? Now, one of the risks, and we talk about this a lot, someone will use ChatGPT, or there's plenty of other Gen AI tools, ask it a question, receive a response, post that response to a blog, use it in a press release, rely on it for some decision making. But they don't read it, or they don't have the subject matter expertise to determine whether that response is accurate, or the degree of accuracy. What's the exposure and risk to the organization at that point? So a variety of different risks. My next general question: how many people are prepared right now to do an audit of AI? It was a question to audit was talked about in the earlier presentations. We're working on that problem right now. How do you audit AI? All right. Are you, as HR professionals, going to be involved with the executive management team in putting together the scope and objectives of your first audit of AI? If you buy the software and you intend to use the software, someone's going to need to audit that software for compliancy, for governance. It might fall to your internal audit department. It might fall to your external third-party auditors. Do either of those entities have the skill set to audit AI? What is going to be one of the biggest challenges in auditing AI? What do you think? This is an interactive session, so in fact, it'll be more interactive in a couple of minutes. What do you think is going to be one of the biggest challenges to audit AI? AI is based on the premise of large learning models. AI is based on the premise of taking large volumes of data points, analyzing those data, and producing a response to a query. All that analysis is done via some type of algorithmic operation. One of the more challenging aspects of auditing AI is going to be how do you go about auditing the algorithms that are producing the answers to your queries? What type of skill set will you need to have on that team? Data scientist, data management, someone, again, if it's an HR tool, someone from HR, what are the skill sets? The big challenge will be going to any one of the AI labs, OpenAI, for example. What do you think the response is going to be if I walk up to OpenAI, kind of knock on the corporate door and say, I'm here to audit your AI tool, and I need to look at your algorithmic decision-making process and the algorithms that you use to produce your results? How forthcoming do you think OpenAI is going to be to hand me that, what I would assume, and hopefully logically assume, is highly proprietary information? So if I can't audit that, how do I place my trust that the algorithms are actually working the way they're supposed to? And that the output is what is at least near close to what I anticipate or suspect that output will be. Other areas that are going to be difficult in that assessment, that audit, will be compliance. How do you assure that the output is complying to whatever government regulations, for example, you might necessarily have to comply with? Bigger next question then, how many companies represented here this morning, well, this afternoon now, how many people here have an AI assessment team? We're all jumping into AI. We've talked about it for the last day and a half now. Yep, we're going to buy all these tools. How many people are going to audit that at the beginning? So we had a very good presentation on change management. Before you buy the tool, how are you going to assess it? What are the assessment questions you're going to use? Is that tool that my organization is attempting to acquire the right tool for my job, for the organization? Who should be on that assessment team? Let's just take, for example, we're looking at a tool for HR, since we're focused today in this conference. Well, obviously, you would hope that it would be an HR professional. Hopefully, there's someone from your data science team, hopefully from IT. How many people would envision having N, and I'll use N just as a placeholder, N number of employees on that team? Employees are going to be impacted by that HR, by that tool. Should they be involved in the acquisition process, the assessment process? So, again, one of the objectives for the short presentation this morning is hopefully act as a little bit of a teaser. Tomorrow's workshop, we're going to get into much more detail on the risks and benefits and auditing of an AI tool and how would we go about doing that. What are the risks and benefits to HR from AI tools, etc. So the ethics part of it, now this is a completely, not different because we've had ethics come up a couple times in the last day and a half, but maybe not as much as I'd like. We're all very proactive on acquiring artificial intelligence, but what about the ethics of doing that? For all the companies represented here today, let me see a show of hands interactively. How many people have conducted an ethics audit of your organization in the last 12 months? Let's raise our hands. Okay, that is scary. I see no hands. All right, so ethics, a very, very critical piece and part of artificial intelligence. Are we going to audit the ethical use of that technology? Well, let's look at it this way. How many people have, we talked and we heard about data privacy earlier. Well, with that data, how many people have a acceptable use is not right. How many people have a responsible use of data policy or your ethical use of data? If I'm a client, do I know how you will use my data? What is your ethical position on using client data? Do you resell it? You scrub it? You turn it over to a third party for further customization? What's the ethical use of your data? Some of the really high-level concerns from an ethics perspective, as we see here. Well, the AI system, how does it address fairness? We already mentioned, and we've heard enough about bias, and that's going to be one of the main topics that you'll see in most discussions on AI. How do you mitigate biasness? We heard that you'll probably never eliminate bias, so the objective would be, how do I mitigate it to an acceptable level? If you're always going to have bias in the data, if you strip out so much data and you're down to a very minimal data pool, then it may not be statistically valid. Transparency. How confident did you feel that you understand and know how that AI tool is making the decisions? You've purchased a tool, you ported it out, you deployed it to the entire organization, or let's just say even within the HR department. How do you know the tool is making the right decision? Do you understand how it works? It's not like you're going to get a user manual and read through it and figure it out. So who's responsible for determining that the tool is actually doing what it's supposed to do? Accountability. How do you hold the developers responsible for AI action? This is interesting. Think about self-driving cars. You get in the car in the morning, you got to read the Gulf Times, it takes you to the office. Well, the car gets in an accident. Let's just say it hits an immovable object. You don't want it to hit a pedestrian. Well, who's responsible? Your insurance company? You? The programmer that wrote the AI tool? Who are you going to hold accountable? What is the accountability if the AI produces inaccurate results of which you act on because someone didn't go through and substantiate the output? We heard a lot about privacy of data. That could be the individual privacy, but also any data that you put in a tool. How do you maintain and sustain the privacy of those data? If you're using a public tool and you're uploading your data, those data could be leaked, and someone else could get access to your data. Now, if you spool that up on your own instance and your own server, and it's highly protected, which is a whole different presentation, well, then you have a better, maybe higher degree of confidence that your data won't be leaked. But, yeah. Oh, 5 minutes already? Oh, that's quick. All right, sorry. All right, so, all right, here's some questions, all right? And this is the interactive part. So I've got a mic here, so I'm going to actually go up and talk to people. So just because carbon-based life forms can produce, build, and release Gen AI tools and derivative products, should we? Just because we can do that, should we? We'll go over to this table here. Hopefully this is on. What do you think? Who'd like to answer the question? Should we do it, yes or no? Don't all speak at once. Okay, I'll go over here. Sir, what do you think? I'm going to put you in the spotlight, you're on the camera. What do you think, yes or no? Just because we can do it, should we do it? This is almost that famous line from the first Jurassic Park movie. Just because we have the technology to clone dinosaurs, should we really, really do that?
I think we do.
Yeah? Okay. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. You don't get credit taken away if you say yes or no. It is a personal opinion. And why am I these questions up here? Because you will be in the position to have to answer these questions. And the role of an HR manager, executive, should we be doing this? How do you respond to your constituents from an ethical position on our use of implementing the technology and bringing AI into the company? All right, so should Gen AI models be built and released without first evaluating the ethical implications? So think about that for a minute while I wander around. AI is a tool. It's a piece of software. I would imagine any software you currently have in production in your operations went through some type of pre-implementation review, some type of analysis, some type of assessment before it was released into your organization. Some test team in IT probably tested. How many people have tested ChatGPT with a set of control questions before you went out and used it? It's the same way, how many people put test data into your Excel spreadsheets before you actually load it with real data and generate an output? So what do you think? I'll stop over here and ask this table here. What do you think, folks? Should we do this? Who wants to answer the question? I'll put everybody on the spot, but this is the interactive part of this. So you're going to rank this presentation really high, right? Yeah, okay. No one wants to talk. What do you think, sir? Should we?
Yeah.
Should we release these without first evaluating the ethical implications?
I think it's difficult.
It's difficult.
It's going to use all our lives and our data in a way that we cannot control it.
Exactly. We're going to use all our data from our life, and we can't control that. Well, one of the questions, and it's a follow-up here then, can ethics be programmed or written into, embedded within AI? How did we learn to be ethical? Everybody in this room learned to be ethical either from a parent, grandparent, on the knee of someone as you grew up. It was mentioned, I think, Joseph, in the earlier panel presentation, AI is a baby. It's learning. How do we teach it to be ethical? Can we program ethics into technology? I started my career programming mainframe computers. You can program anything. Pardon? Until now, no, right? We haven't programmed ethics into it. Should we?
Before about the challenge of AI. Okay. Now I say the more challenge is secure and also ethical.
So it should be secure and ethical, correct? And how do you determine that? Well, again,
Dr. Al, sorry, but that's time.
okay. All right, this is my last question then. I'll leave this up here and say thank you very much. If we can program ethics into AI, whose ethics are we going to use? My ethics, your ethics, the programmer's ethics, the AI company's ethics? So I really appreciate your attention. I know we're running over. Tomorrow's workshop, we have 2 hours where we're going to look at this in much more detail, so hopefully we'll see a lot of you there tomorrow. Thank you again. I didn't meet my objective of beating the timekeeper, so I apologize. But thank you very much, everyone.